In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draw a snowman in Tinkercad. After creating a new 3D design, the very first step I'm going to take is to change the name up here to Snowman. So I'm going to change this crazy name, Bodacious Hango. I'm going to click on it and change it to Snowman, and this way, when you're viewing your designs in Tinkercad, it'll be easy to identify. The first step we're going to do is we're going to add a sphere over here from Basic Shapes. So I'm going to click on that, and actually we got to click and drag to place it on the work plane. And then the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to change the color from blue here. So you click on the solid, and I'm going to change it to white. And now I'm going to show you a little bit about resizing a sphere, or for that matter, any shape. If I were to just grab this handle or node, I believe they're called nodes in Tinkercad, when you go to resize, or if you drag this, it's very easy to distort the shape. So let me show you what we start out as. The sphere starts out as 20 by 20, and it's also 20 high. When I click and drag from one of these corners, it starts to get distorted. And even if you do, or you can make the numbers equal, like let's say, let me try to drag it out to 36, which is ultimately what we want the sphere to be. If you do get it to 36, we have the width 36, we have the depth front to back 36, but watch what the height is. The height is still only 20. So we don't want to do that. I'm going to just actually delete the sphere. I'm going to put in another sphere. And again, let's make it white. So this will be, we are going to keep this one. Now, by holding down the Shift key on your keyboard, so I press the Shift key, press and hold it down while I click, and it doesn't matter which node I grab. It could be this one, it could be this one. It doesn't matter which one I grab. When I click and drag, it keeps all the numbers proportional or equal to each other. So now when I take this out to 36, and somehow, there we go. When I take that to 36, it's changing the width, the depth, and if we view it, well, I can just click here on this top node. Changes the height to 36, which you can see when you go to the front, it's still a perfectly round sphere. So let me review that, or do a replay on that, or redo. I'm going to put in a sphere. You don't have to do this. You should already have your sphere. I'm going to change this to white. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and drag until I get to 36. That's what we want this base of our snowman to be. Then we're going to duplicate the base for the midsection, or the middle of the snowman. We could just go grab another sphere from over here, drag it in, but we're making it a lot harder on ourselves because then we're going to have to line it up. We still have to change the color. So instead of dragging a new sphere in, we're going to duplicate this one. And the way we're going to do that is Control D on your Chromebooks. So you press down the Control key and you hold it down, and then you press and immediately release the D. So it's just one press and release of D. And you see the screen, you see your shape or the object flash, but you don't see anything else happen. It doesn't offset it or put it somewhere else. So really the only way to know how many shapes are here is I'm going to take this arrow tool, which is called the select tool. I'm going to drag a box around this area. Now it shows me that I have two shapes. So I could drag this, I have them both selected. I could drag one out. It's just to prove to you that I have two, but I don't really want to do that because we're going to pull this shape straight up with this cone, directly up, so that our snowman stays lined up over so that the middle section is centered over the base. Let me show you what also, I want to show you what happens if you hold down the D key when you're duplicating. So if I press down the Control key and I just hold D, what's happening every time it flashes is it's making a duplicate. And so now if I drag a box around, you'll see I have 16 shapes, which I can prove to you by doing this. So we don't want 16 shapes. That's not productive. So I'm going to delete all of these. Let me explain how I did that. With the arrow tool, this is a select tool. I'm going to drag a box around the ones I don't want. and then I can press backspace on the keyboard. Now this is just one shape. I'm going to put it back here in the middle, and it does not have to be precisely in the middle. It really could be anywhere. So I want to duplicate this, hold down the control key, press D once, and then we're going to immediately pull it up, and I'm going to say that probably around 30 is going to be pretty good. Let's take a look at it from the front. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's precisely 30 or not. You could go a little lower or a little higher. I think 30 looks good. Right now, this top sphere looks ridiculously large compared to the bottom. They're actually the same size. It's just the camera angle makes it look huge. But either way, we're going to need to resize it. And a word about resizing. This time we're going to resize from this top node, and I'll show you why. Again, we need to hold down the Shift key. We're going to resize this to size 28. By resizing from the top, it keeps this middle section aligned, or it doesn't move or change position, so it's still aligned with the base. And we can see that by looking at the front view, the right side view, the back view. It's still all lined up. We could have, let's undo the resizing, we could have resized from one of the corners. Let's see. Thought I saw the base moving, but I guess it didn't. I could resize from the corners to make it size 28, but what's happening is then it changes positions. So when I'm looking at the front or the right, that's no good. So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to click undo, or we can do Control Z. I'm going to keep undoing till it's back over the center. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I want to resize from this top node. I'm going to make it size 28. Let's look at it from the front. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go back to Home View. Now we're going to do Control D again. This time we're going to duplicate the middle section. And if I wasn't messing around, what would actually happen is it would place the duplicate on top automatically. I can show you that here in a second. We're going to pull this up, and I'm going to guess that 54 looks pretty good. Let's see. Let's go to front view. Maybe pull it down a little bit more, maybe like 52. And again, it's going to be too large, so let's resize it from the top. Let's pull it down to size 22, and let's see what that looks like. Go to front view. Okay, I think that looks pretty good, but I pulled it down a little too low. So let's go back up to 54. Okay, I think that looks good. Now, you are not to do these next couple steps. I'm just going to show you what Tinkercad can automatically do for you, and it tries to anticipate or thinks ahead about what you might be doing. So watch this. I'm going to go through the whole process here again, but without all the extra stuff. I'm going to make this 36. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to pull it up to about 30. And then I'm going to make this 28. I'm going to pull it down from the top. And watch, when I do duplicate this time, Control D, it puts the head on top, and it even shrinks it to a size that it thinks I would want it to be, which is, let's see, 21.78, which is pretty close to what I was experimenting earlier in another drawing, and I decided that the head would look good at size 22 with a base of 36. So Tinkercad did it basically like an autofill. When we did duplicate, it put the head on top in a position where it thinks that it would look good or that we're expecting it, which is pretty amazing. It's probably some sort of or form of AI that does that. But I'm going to drag a box around this snowman with my select tool and just get rid of that. Let's get back to the one we started on. And now that the snowman itself is done, let's add some other features to it, such as a carrot nose. And we will start with a cone to do this. And let's go ahead and make it orange first, so that we know it's a carrot, but it looks more like a carrot already. And then let's change the base radius I'm going to click on this 10 and make it 2. And now it's looking a lot more like a carrot. And now to rotate this forward, you definitely need to be on the right side view, and now would be a good time to talk about another way to navigate in Tinkercad. If you hold down the Alt, A-L-T key on your keyboard, it's called the Alt key, you can click and drag and it will allow you to orbit in Tinkercad. So it's really easy to change positions, and that's an Alt click and drag. So we can get to the right side just by simply clicking and spinning here. And we do that because when we click on our cone, we want this arrow key or this rotate tool to appear so that we can spin this forward. And let me show you how I'm doing that. So I click on the cone, then I click on this arrow, and I just click and drag, and we want to rotate it. In this case, it's negative 90 degrees, but we want to rotate it forward 90 degrees. Then I'm going to go back to my home view, and we're going to pull this caret up, and being careful not to click on any of these nodes. So you might need to zoom in a little bit. You can just push and pull with 2 fingers, or you can click this plus sign, and we can grab our caret. I'm going to have to actually zoom out a little bit. I'm using push-pull with 2 fingers on my touchpad to do this. I'm going to drag the caret over, and it looks like it's still too low. So we grab this cone and we pull it up. And let's look at it from different views. So from the right view, I'm going to zoom in here. Be careful you don't grab any cones. I'm going to pull this out a little farther. Let's go back to our home view, and I'm going to move it to the right. I accidentally grabbed one of the nodes, so I'm going to undo that. And I'm actually going to use the arrow keys in the bottom right corner of my keyboard to do this time. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to skip the eyes and buttons for now because I want to go straight to the hat. And I want to show you 2 ways that you could add a hat. The first way is you can add your own hat by making it. So we're going to start with a cylinder for the brim. And I did some experimenting, so I already know that 20 works well for this. I'm going to just leave it 20. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the height down to just 1. And I clicked and dragged, but you could also do this. If it's easier for you to just click there and then type in 1, you can do that and then press enter. So that's going to be the rim of our hat. And then this is going to be the top part. And again, I did some experimenting earlier, and I want this to be 12 in every direction. So I'm going to hold down my shift key and drag this until it says 12. Let me move this over so you can see that it's 12 in every direction. Then I'm going to line these 2 up so that this is centered over this one. With this arrow tool or the select tool, I'm going to click and drag to form a box around here. There's no tool to go grab anywhere, and you have to make sure you're not clicking on anything else like that. I'm going to undo that. Make sure you're not clicking on anything when you go to select multiple objects. I'm going to click and drag, and then here's a new tool for us. It's up here, and by the way, these tools are only available when 2 or more objects is selected. Right now it's grayed out, so if you see these tools grayed out, that means they're not available to you because you haven't selected anything. And even if you only select 1 object, you still can't click on anything. So we have to have 2 objects selected. Now we can click on this align tool. And right here, when this center dot of these 3 at the bottom are saying, hey, line everything up on this center line, which is what we want to do. So this moved over, it's centered now, and then these 3 dots on the left, if I clicked up here, it would line them up on that edge. If I click down here, it lines them up on this edge. This center one is the only one we want. So you don't go through the process of clicking on them all like I just did. In fact, I'm going to undo that and show that again. So watch this. We select them, click on align, center, center, and now our hat is ready to be grouped. And this is the group tool. Well, actually, this is the group tool. Sorry about that. But it's not currently available because we don't have anything selected. So I select my hat, which is currently 2 shapes. And when I click group, it now becomes just 1 shape. And we're going to change the color to black. Now we can pull our hat up, grab it and drag it over. It's still too low, so we can just keep using that cone tool to pull it up. And a word about the center tool, the alignment tool. Watch this. So I can look at it from every direction. Let's look at it from the top. You can see the hat's not lined up. So we can again use the align tool here. And by the way, I'm zooming in and out with my 2 fingers on my touchpad. I'm going to pull down here and zoom out so that I can go back and zoom in right here. I'm going to just click and drag a box so that the hat and the head are selected, just at those 2 sections. Or I could also click on the hat, hold down the shift key and click on the head, and it selects the hat and the head. I can now use my align tool, and watch this. It's already centered in one direction, but it's not centered in this direction, so that lines it up. And the reason we see this white ring right here is because that's actually a part of the snowman's head is coming through the hat. So let's pull that up a little bit more. And now let's look at it from every direction. I'm going to say the nose is probably a little too high, so I'm going to click on it. And here's another tip for using Tinkercad. I can click and drag this cone right here. Or another thing I can do is use the down arrow key with the control key. So if you hold down the control key and you use the down arrow key, okay, I believe it's control on a Chromebook. On my Mac, it's the command key. It should be the control key. Let me undo all that. Should be the control key on a Chromebook. On my Mac, it's not the control key. But holding down the command key allows me to move it down with the down key and up with the up key. If you don't hold down your control key, or in my case, the command key, and you use the down arrow, it moves it back. So we don't want that. Anyway, you can just grab this cone tool and pull it up and down, or some cases it makes more sense to use the control key and the arrow keys. That's where I'm going to stop for this video. I'm going to leave it up to you to put the eyes and buttons in, and actually, no, I'm going to show you how to do the arms as well. And there's several ways you could do it. You can actually make arms out of making a long, thin cylinder and then adding some fingers, or you can use the scribble tool. So I thought now would be a good time to show you how to use the scribble tool. So let's put it down, and I'm just going to draw a little, that's supposed to be a stick, and then should we make 2 fingers or 3? Let's do it like that. We'll click done. Let's shrink this down so that it's about like that. And it's not perfect. It's not going to be round, but that's okay. It's going to work out just fine. And we need to rotate this thing, so I'm going to actually have to go to the right side. And let's go here. Okay, actually, somehow I got to top. Sorry about that. I meant to go here. We need to rotate this 90 degrees this way. And rotation seems to be difficult for students, so I'll show you this again. I'll review it. Now it's rotated 90 degrees. Let's go back to home. So now we have it where we can pull it up and make it a part of our snowman. It's too high. Let's pull it down. We got to push it further back in the drawing. Also, instead of it being blue, we should probably make it a brown. And it's probably still a little high. Let's pull that down and maybe push it back a little bit. Let's see what it looks like from the front. It's not too bad. Okay, I'm going to show you how to rotate that again. So I'm going to undo it so it's laying on the ground again. Okay, so to be able to roll it towards us in the front, it's typically going to have to be on the right side. Click on it, and now you get the rotate option that will allow you to basically make it stand up. And you want it to be 90 degrees. Okay, I'm going to go back to my home view, and now we can push it back here, pull it up, and let's see what it looks like from the front. Let's go to the right. Let's move it more to the front a little bit. Go back to my home view. Let's make it brown, because before we duplicate it and put it on the other side, I want to make it less work for us. Now we're going to duplicate it, Control D. It's right there. I'm going to drag it over to here. Actually, before I even drag it, I could flip it, but I'll just flip it now. We want to flip it in this direction and then line it up. So I'm going to delete that with my backspace key to show you this again. We duplicate it, Control D. We use our mirror tool. And when I click this arrow, that shows me which direction I want to mirror or flip it. And then we can click and drag and put it over here. Okay, let's see what it looks like. I think that's not too bad. Now, as I said, I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out, or if you have time to put the eyes in. You could use the half sphere. You could use a sphere. You could use the cylinder. There's a number of shapes here you could use for eyes and buttons. You could even put in this dice as buttons, or you could even decorate your. You could make buttons on the front out of this. I'm not going to even try to say that. You could also use the diamond. I would definitely at least try to put some eyes in there so that your snowman has a face, but that's all that I'm expecting from this drawing. Okay, good luck, and hope everything goes smoothly.